Hey, good morning, Ian.
Good morning. Looks like you made it into the office on this freezing, snowy day.
I did, yeah. It hit minus 30 on the car thermometer on my way here. It was a little warmer in Canmore actually when I left, about minus 20. Hit minus 30, about
Yeah,
minus 26 in Calgary. So I see you're dressed for the weather there, Steve Jobs.
yeah. Well, I'm planning to come back downtown, and I'll see you earlier or later this morning. But for
Cool.
now, I don't wear a turtleneck very often. But if there was ever a day, today feels like the day.
Yeah, I should have worn my turtleneck. I've got a white one, and then we'd sort of be yin and yang.
Every time I wear it,
I
I get
know.
Steve Jobs comments. So
What's
just
that?
shows how every time I wear the turtleneck, I get a Steve Jobs comment. It really shows how iconic that look was, and just like how pervasive he is as a character, even in the social fabric. Obviously, he's been gone for a little while now, but we all we all think about it, and we all know the turtleneck.
Totally. Yeah, that is it's interesting. It's the first thing I think about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. What we got on tap today?
Yeah, so I think there's three things we talked about. One of them we've got to touch on, which is the repeal of the endangerment finding, the
Mhm.
implications there. I think you were interested in talking about the valuations of some IPPs or just IPPs in general and the
Yeah,
landscape there. And always topical is AI and OpenClaw. Previously many names and taking the world by storm, and you're definitely jumping on that wagon hard with.
trying to. I'm probably getting drug along. The cowboy that's got his boots strapped to the back of the wagon. The horses are running, and I'm bouncing around behind. But I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, either way, it's great. We got to keep up with AI. So, otherwise we'll all get left behind. So I think it's important to talk about as well. So, I mean, let's start with the EPA and the repeal of the endangerment finding.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I think it's been talked about for a while. I think 6 months ago, I was talking to folks about what could that mean for particular. I mean, it can mean a lot for a lot of different things. I mean, for the planet, obviously, it's actual emissions and tidal global warming. But I think what's more impactful is how is it going to affect the 45Q tax credits for all of these projects that have announced permanent sequestration or are switching to anthropogenic CO2 for enhanced oil recovery. And I mean, I think not much is going to change.
yeah,
We saw that at least, I think it was uh, back in December, where the IRS published or issued a notice establishing safe harbor for businesses looking to claim 45Q credit. And that's if the EPA doesn't release its electronic greenhouse gas reporting tool
mhm,
by June 10th, 2026. I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of people don't think that's going to happen.
yeah.
But that doesn't matter because these companies can use a third party independent verification for the actual MRV to prove that that CO2 has been stored. So I don't think there's a lot of issue there. And I mean, the only issue I think is for CO2 enhanced oil recovery because
Yeah.
that wasn't included. And a lot of folks in the carbon capture space sort of pushed that as a concern that EOR storage wasn't included in that safe harbor clause. Which again, I don't think will be an issue because if you look at the largest sequesters of CO2 in the United States, essentially Occidental and Exxon with EOR operations. And
Yeah.
so I think they'll find a way to make that happen, especially since we've seen a shift towards anthropogenic CO2 in enhanced oil recovery. Over the last decade, we're probably up to like 15% of CO2 in EOR operations is now from anthropogenic sources and could claim 45Q when previously there was none.
So is it really an issue of the record of truth and the MRV piece of it that's concerned? Is that what the crux is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the IRS needs proof that that CO2 has been stored,
Yeah.
and that's part of the measurement reporting and verification programs that the EPA has set up and is part of the reporting tool to prove that that has happened, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just to have
You
assurance.
really have a third party in that mix anyhow, and you're reporting it to the EPA, but you're still going through the audit trail.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Where my mind went was more around voluntary credits, and is there a shift in voluntary behavior with the repeal? And even there, I was a little suspect that it's going to make a big difference, because many folks are looking much further into the future than
Totally.
a few months, and who knows, change of administration, whatever. I think those companies that are committed are going to remain committed.
I totally agree. And also, I mean, at the state level, I'm not sure if you can repeal some of the greenhouse gas reporting or the emissions standards that exist. I mean, you see that with California, other states, like there's a whole list of states that actually have existing constitutional environmental rights. There's an example of, I think, a group of students in Montana that held a climate trial under, preventing oil and gas companies from developing land on BLM acreage, and they won. And that's due to, the actual existing constitutional environmental rights in Montana. I think Pennsylvania has it, Hawaii, Illinois, a number of the other states have it. So at the state level, I think we'll see that continue. And also even from an export perspective, like we've got the carbon border adjustment mechanism that's gone in place in Europe. And you see India backing into that, because India has a lot of exports into Europe, like steel. And as part of that, they've actually allocated $2 billion towards advancing their CCS industry to make sure that their exports are competitive. So I think we're seeing globally shift that way, and carbon border adjustment mechanisms are a way that's making that happen, or making sort of individual jurisdictions accountable for their emissions.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, anyone as big is probably got a global footprint. They're the ones that are most likely to follow suit anyhow. And so some of the policy noise in a way almost reinforces their behavior, because you can't take future risk by not planning for that future.
Totally.
You're probably not going to get punished for reducing your CO2.
No, I mean,
asymmetric.
Maybe.
I mean, you reduce your footprint. There's a lot of potential benefits. No real material downsides outside of what might be financial cost.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which seems like a pretty asymmetric bet to me.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, not too concerned, but I mean, it's just interesting to see where the direction the United States is headed under Trump versus the rest of the world.
Very interesting. Lots to follow there. It's all the subtleties that matter, and maybe that's a good dovetail into the IPP valuations and some of the work we've been doing there. And I don't want to talk about NAV specifically, but a couple things stood out to me. One is you've seen this rise and fall of share prices for a lot of large IPPs, and it really has tracked this trend we've seen of, okay, oh gosh, there's all this demand growth led by data centers and AI, but there's other factors driving power demand growth. That must mean that all the power producers are going to do very, very well, so bets piled in. But really, over the last couple months, we've seen a big wave of behind the meter generation and sort of islanded generation coming into the market. And a lot of folks thinking about, how do you protect ratepayers for big tech? How do you secure power early, and being disconnected from the grid? Quite interesting. And so that's sort of an interesting thematic. And then the second one that stands out to me is just the importance of contracting. And we see, a series of deals come through, and every time you end up revaluing the assets because of a PPA, it's accretive and positive for our NAVs. And it really is, I guess, the implications of having the Googles and the Metas and others at the table and spending capital the way they are is really re-rating some of these assets if you can make them the counterparty for your asset versus more of a market-led type of revenue stream. So a couple of things there I find interesting.
Yeah, and you see it with technology adoption as well. Geothermal, plug it there again. But I think the only thing that's uplifting that industry is the PPAs that are being signed, or the partnerships that are being formed between the hyperscalers and these geothermal companies.
Yeah, it's an interesting dovetail with the repeal or with the OBBA, where you have more market-led actors, namely the big tech entities that are more uh, green oriented in terms of their emission profiles, effectively subsidizing a bunch of technologies that in past administrations or earlier times, right, we were trying to support those things primarily with tax credits. So it's really just a shifting of the burden, um, and a bit of happenstance that you've got one of the biggest, technology booms we'll see, uh, contemporaneous with this sort of opportunity for these assets.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, these hyperscalers do want low carbon energy, and you see it also with, for example, CCS on natural gas fired generation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I guess off the backs of that, talking about AI and using
Yeah.
energy for AI agents and just AI in general. I saw recently that you bought a Mac Mini to run OpenClaw, and that's
Yeah. I mean, my feed's just exploding with OpenClaw stuff.
yeah. So is
Maybe
mine.
that's the algorithm just feeding me what I want to see, or a bit of both. It's one of those moments, I think, where enough people are jumping on that bandwagon, and I'm not at the forefront of technology, but to me, it was a pretty simple piece of math. Like, go open Pandora's box and kind of experiment and play and see where it takes you. And you could choose not to do it. I just think that the space is moving so fast that if you're not actively trying to get closer to the front or stay close to the front, you're going to find yourself falling behind very quickly. And I always worry that you're going to fall behind faster than you can catch up later. And this is duality. Like, things get really easy. Like, whatever it takes to set up OpenClaw today, I'm sure in like 2 months it's going to be an easy service you can just get online. Worst case scenario, I end up with a nice new computer.
Well, I think it already is like super easy.
It is pretty easy, and it's not like crazy daunting. But there's things that even just setting it up, that not being a coder and so not being deep into
Yeah,
terminal and the rest, having the combination of Gemini or Claude to help set things up, like, it's made it much easier and much more approachable. In the sense, like, I don't know what that means. Like, here's the errors. Like, what should I do? And I don't want to have to write what the bash it should be. It just gives it back to me.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I need to explore OpenClaw. I mean, got to explore all these tools as they come out.
yeah.
I mean, like you said, you're gonna fall behind. Um, I always think about, is AI going to take our jobs? And AI can't take your job if your job is to use AI.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the direction we're heading, where it's like, yeah, you kind of have to be able to use AI pretty proficiently, and I think that will only become more and more true.
Well, even setting it up, it changes the way I think about the world as well, where I'm literally giving it an email account, uh, literally making it a person within my family account, so I can access my subscriptions that way. Well, trying to wall it off as well, but give it
Yeah,
access to things. Uh, Very quickly, you need to provide credit card information and things like that to be able to support like the API tokens. Well, do I set it up with a specific account, maybe with like a prepaid Visa or something like that? So
give
I
it
try,
its own bank account.
right? And very quickly, it's like, well, it's kind of acting like a digital entity. Like, that's the point.
Yeah,
You think about legal corporate structures. Well, what is a corporation? It's sort of a legally defined entity. It's a person effectively under the law. I mean, at what point do I have my OpenClaw guy under a legal umbrella, and like, that is the business, and it's a humanless business, right?
yeah,
And I'm just the equity holder in that business.
yeah. I wonder when we'll see the first billion-dollar company formed purely from agents that are essentially run autonomously, and
I mean,
start hiring people to do human tasks.
yeah, and there's lots in the pod sphere about that. Even here, we've had a couple conversations. I've had a couple conversations of, should we be trying to run a setup like this to automate a bunch of tasks versus an incremental hire or an intern? And it gets very personal in a hurry, where the cost to set up and run one of these things is not that different in some cases of, employee, or it's way less than that, but depending on what you assume for compute costs, you very quickly start having to think about, should I be trying this? And just at the margin of, you 1 out of 100 hires, you decide to do this at the margin, it's already going to have an impact on employment.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, there's a definite, definite implication there for sure. But, at the same time, I think we need to be trying it. Everybody needs to be trying it.
Yeah. And the other tension I feel is that the jobs that, just because of the dollar cost, it tends to be the lower level jobs. But I'm also inherently biased towards wanting to have more and more young folks in our teams, because they're often the ones that are bringing the ideas and the forethought about how to deploy this technology. And so that paradox almost puts you in this question, like, if you had to make space, I know it's a tough market for young folks, but to me, like, that's the group you actually want to be hiring right now in a way, and really thinking about what you do with more experienced folks.
Yeah.
Again, just an interesting philosophical and ethical debate.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's also fear of, if we're not hiring young folks, that talent pipeline is essentially severed. And,
yeah.
What do you do 5-10 years down the road when you haven't developed that pipeline? I mean, it's necessary regardless of what AI does, because you need that experience.
And I've been fortunate. Like, we've always, the teams I've been part of throughout my career has always had a heavy bias to younger, newer employees. And I think I just appreciate how much they bring in terms of energy and ideas, and especially technology, and this willingness to try and just do things. And it's not to belittle the experience, but it's just kind of interesting. You look at the AI market, and I think there's lots of conversations around what happens to the labor force and which pools of talent get affected. And I think a lot of people are biased towards it impacting entry-level jobs, because that's what you might be able to use a lot of these tools for today. It's just, maybe that's the wrong pool to be cutting off for the reasons you've outlined, and because of the ideas.
A lot of the reasons you've outlined too. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So younger folks to bring the energy and have played around with these tools, right? Yeah. They're also in the forefront of AI and all these technologies. So,
yeah, it's kind of an interesting, maybe a good place to leave it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what to think about all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to debate and discuss there.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily energy related. I mean, it's energy adjacent, but definitely related to all.
It's very life proximate.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyway,
well,
good show. I'll see you in the office soon.
Sounds good.
Always enjoy chatting.
Yeah, stay warm. And everybody watching, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
See you next time.